we got way into this with Dan, Baldelli's job status. And,
Yeah.
I realize we're talking about like Austin Martin or Cody Clemens or even the aggressiveness on the bases. It's like, well, Baldelli would love to do this. Well, that's only relevant if Baldelli's still the manager next year.
Correct.
And that is certainly at this point a question. Not because I'm claiming to have heard any inside for information. I mean, there's been speculation and stuff, but just because, as we've said before, like they're missing the playoffs for the fourth time in 5 years.
Yep.
And they're at a point in a 5 year cycle, let's say, where no matter if you say, well, ownership's to blame more than anybody, or even the front office is far more to blame, the truth is you missed the playoffs four times in 5 years. A lot of managers don't make it through that. And even last year when they collapsed,
Yeah.
we talked about the fact, like, is this going to get him fired? Like,
Right.
just
Yeah.
a
I mean, a lot
collapse.
of managers don't make it through a collapse like that at the
Right.
end of the season. Right.
But the one factor here that's a little bit weird is that he's been around since 2019. The front office has been in place, at least Derek Falvey's been in place since 2017. And they've had that same lack of success over the last 5 years.
Yes.
And they've built the teams that have done this. But if they're not going to get fired, I think that increases the chances of Baldelli being fired, in that unless they just do nothing, which is going to be wildly unpopular. But actually, my theory is the Poets just don't care. Like,
Yes.
they're already wildly unpopular. What's the difference between a negative 99 approval rating or a negative 100 approval rating
Right.
on some level? But
Yes.
the truth is that most managers, most coaching staff, and most front offices who don't have, how'd you put it, like haven't banked.
Yeah, haven't built up the bank account. They haven't made
Right.
deposits into the fan experience bank account.
Right.
Yeah.
In other words, Tom Kelly was allowed to manage through 6 horrendous seasons or 8 horrendous
Yeah.
seasons because he had 2 championships.
Yes.
No one
Right.
cared about.
Yeah.
People still talk about him as a legend. It
And
doesn't.
Baldelli had that after the 2023 season. I think that's one of the things that
Right.
protected him last year in 2024 is he ended up having a couple of big playoff wins. It was just a year ago we really thought this guy was something. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they had
And
a big collapse, but whatever.
and I think he also got shielded by the focus on ownership, which is
Sure.
righteous.
Sure.
But that it was like, well, what do you expect? Ownership's terrible. That's still true. Ownership is even worse now. And there is
Right.
part of me that goes, well, what do you want him to do? But the reality is, you missed the playoffs four times in 5 years. Like, I don't. I mean, you're fair game at that point. And if they're not gonna, and I think the truth is, most managers and most front offices in this position over the course of 5 years, without that built up, banked success that even like Gardenhire and Terry Ryan had, to a much less level than McPhail and Tom Kelly, but still
Right.
more so than Ryan, or more so than Baldelli and Falvey have, certainly. They don't make it. But if the front office is not in any danger, and that's certainly my sense, I mean, hell, they gave him a promotion off the collapse last year,
Right.
Falvey. If the front office is not in any danger, then that, I think, increases the likelihood of the manager and or coaching staff being the ones in danger. Whether the front office wants to do it or not, it's at some point it's like self-preservation, right? It's like,
Right.
the heat is starting to rise.
We've got to make some change. We know we can't do just this,
Right.
right? And we can't fire ownership. So
I've looked
and we
into
don't want to
that.
fire, and we ain't firing ourselves.
I looked into firing ownership. Not doable,
No.
unfortunately. Yeah, I looked. My Google searches were like, how can you kick someone off their own podcast?
That's
And
right.
how
Yeah.
can you fire owner of
Yeah,
a team?
yeah.
And neither of them. They were like,
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
you're SOL, buddy.
That's right.
And so, yeah, I think that's why the Baldelli thing is looming. And what's interesting, of course, is that they already picked up sometime mid-season the 2026 option on his contract. Now, that's a bad look. The timing of it was bad when Dan Hayes reported it in like June or whatever,
Right.
because they were losing at that point, and people were like, "What do you mean they already picked it up?" But even I couldn't think less of the Pohlads. Obviously, I think that point is clear, and I don't put anything past them in terms of making decisions based on even small amounts relatively of money.
Sure.
But Rocco Baldelli's not making that much money. I mean, he's making more than us, but he's not. He's not
Sure.
making 10 million a year, and so I don't know that picking up his option for 2026 even
provides
if it's,
any reasonable disincentive for, I
I
agree.
mean, maybe it's like a tiebreaker.
Listen, we
in their
talked about
mind.
this at the time. I wondered if that, option was picked up before spring training. Like, you just don't have a lame duck manager going into a year generally. You
Right.
just don't. It's part of the cost of doing business is that you pick up you're going to pay whatever manager you end up hiring, whenever you end up making a change, that manager is going to be paid for 1 year, at least 1 year beyond that in which you fire him.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, they
that.
used to do that with Gardenhire all the time, and it's not so much for the manager, it's for the clubhouse.
Right.
Because if you know as a player or players that the guy telling you to do stuff and the guy filling out the lineup and the guy running the team is a free agent after the season,
Right.
part of you might be like, what am I listening to you for?
Right.
Or part of you, it could affect the manager's behavior too. Like
Yeah,
it could affect
well,
what they're trying to do.
You're also just protecting yourself as somebody who likes to have an asset. Like, if the manager does a decent job, you don't want that manager walking as a free agent.
Well, yeah, we
and
saw that
making-
with the Timberwolves and Chris Finch.
well, and with Craig Counsell with the
Yeah.
Brewers going to the Cubs, right?
Yeah, other teams came calling for Chris Finch, and the Wolves said, F off, he's under contract.
Right,
And
that's
in Craig Counsell's case, the Cubs were able to poach him because he was done with his contract with the
Right.
Brewers.
That's right.
And so those are all factors for sure. But I think it just comes down to, I think if the front office had its druthers, they would just keep Baldelli. I think they're believers in Baldelli. I think they're attached at the hip with Baldelli. I think there's a recognition that as much as the ownership is the domino effect that limits the front office,
Right.
the front office then is the domino effect that limits Baldelli in terms of the roster.
Sure.
I think there's also a sense of, well, we gutted the roster. Like no one was going to win. Wake up, dig up John McGraw. He wasn't going to win with this team.
Right.
But so I think if the Poleheads just said to Falvey and company, it's up to you. Truly up to you. I think they would keep Baldelli. I also think there's a weird argument for keeping Baldelli if you think next year's going to be bad anyway.
Right.
Because it's like, why bring in a new guy and get him messy from this?
Yeah.
Why not wait another year? Maybe it turns around, in which case, great. And maybe it doesn't, in which case, then you clean slate it with a new guy and they're 1 year closer maybe to a rebuild being competitive. But I think ultimately it's going to come down to this. Are the Poleheads interested in making changes? Or are they just checked out completely? If they're checked out completely and you leave it up to the front office, I think they might keep Baldelli in the role. But if the Poleheads say, we cannot stand by for another year of this, from a PR standpoint, from a ticket sales standpoint, from just a public approval rating standpoint, there has to be some changes. Well, the moment the Poleheads tell the front office there has to be some changes, Baldelli's gone. Because he's the only viable change. Like what you can fire the hitting coach again. You did that last year. You can, find some fourth in command in the front office and fire him or reassign him or whatever. But that's not going to satiate the masses at all. And nor should it, by the way, at this point.
Right.
They're too deep into this thing. And so the front office surely knows that a lot of front offices get fired by this point. And so if ownership is saying to them, you guys are safe, but something's got to give here. There needs to be sacrifice to the masses here at some point. Then I think Baldelli is in real trouble. And it seems like for a while now, you've kind of been of that mindset too.
Yeah. I mean,
which I don't blame you for. I mean, just performance.
I thought his destiny was determined at the trade deadline. I thought it was determined a few days before the trade deadline. And welcome to the end of this video. There's lots more. For another, just click on one of these boxes.
Or click on this circle in the middle to subscribe to all of our Twins Talk.
Thank you.
Gleeman